did. I don't know if he does.
I didn't see it. I mean, I know that his basic paths to victory were Jace and Mishra's Factory.
Well, here we go. I'm Gavin Verhey with Adrian Sullivan.
Hello, everybody.
Into the quarterfinals of the Star City Games Open Series here at the Invitational in Indianapolis. We are watching the third tournament of this weekend. We had the Standard Open, we had the Invitational, now we have the Legacy Open quarterfinals.
And we see Tony Chu there on the right, and I believe that he was the champion in Los Angeles, or didn't he top 8 in Los Angeles?
Pretty sure, I thought he top 8 on the East Coast.
That might have been Atlanta then?
In Edison, I'm pretty sure I saw him. Or Edison or Atlanta, one of the two. Either way, he's here, and he's playing a red-blue-white blade deck. Apparently a bunch of the Rhode Island guys played this deck, Melissa DeTora, Brian Lynch, some of the people in Providence last weekend. Brian Lynch, of course, making top 16 of the Grand Prix. On the left, though, Kyle Kloster, pretty interesting little deck. Reanimator, have not seen much of this one. It did well in recent big European events. We saw Sam Sutter try to get it going in Louisville 2 weeks ago. It didn't really turn out that well for him. Now we have Kyle Kloster in the quarterfinals. Pretty exciting stuff. And we talked about who we think is favored in this matchup. I think Reanimator is favored, but on paper, but it's inconsistent. Reanimator's big problem with Mystical Tutor being banned is you can't ever guarantee having the right piece at the right time, so you have to play a lot of the pieces and hope to draw them in the right order. But you can definitely just draw the wrong ones and not have what you need. On the other hand, you can just draw the perfect pieces and annihilate your opponent.
Yeah, so. Tony Chu got 6th place in Atlanta.
Yep. Alright, so here we go. Tony Chu leads on an island. Swamp Fight for Kyle Kloster. And he's thinking about his play. He's looking at, is he a Reanimator in his hand? I guess is that a Force of Will? Tony Chu brainstorms end step. In response, Entomb by Kyle Kloster. Entomb is extraordinarily powerful. 1 mana, you can get any card from your deck into your graveyard. So it just sets up a reanimation target perfectly. You can get whichever one you want. It allows the deck to run a toolbox of reanimation targets. Let's see. That's a Putrid at the front of Kyle Kloster's hand. Not all Reanimator decks play that guy. Kyle does. He is certainly not Dredge, but he's still Putrid Imping. So it looks like Entomb gets Force of Willed, and Tony Chu's brainstorms one to resolve. So Tony Chu chooses which cards to put back. We see a Swords in his hand. I think I see a Force of Will in his hand, maybe. Yeah, Kyle's deck is interesting. It has Putrid Imp, and not all the Reanimator decks have Putrid Imp.
Count them, 2 brainstorms in Kyle Kloster's deck.
Yep, 2 brainstorms. His Reanimator package is 4 Reanimate, 3 Animate Dead.
4 Exhume.
4 Exhume. So
4 Entomb to take care of that consistency problem you were talking about before.
Right, and most of the Reanimator decks have the Entomb.
Right. I just view this deck as less inconsistent than I think a lot of people feel.
I mean, you have to draw. It's a 2-card combo, so you have to draw the right 2 cards. But the problem is, like, it's not like Splinter Twin Pester or Splinter Twin Deceiver. It's like you don't it's just instantly win. Like if you get Jataxis into play, your opponent can just Swords it, and then you're right back where you started. So Tony Chu is brainstorming. I mean, in Louisville we saw Sam Sutter playing this deck, and yeah, you can just Swords it into Jataxis when it comes down.
Yeah, in order to fight that, he does have 4 Force of Will, 4 Days, 3 Mental Misstep.
Right. Surprised he doesn't have the 4th Mental Misstep. That card seems to battle a lot of the cards that are a problem for this deck. And several one-up targets for in Kyle's deck. So Tony Chu cracking a fetch land. So he brainstorms on the end of Kyle's turn, brainstorms on his turn, maybe trying to find a land.
Interesting to note, between main and sideboard, the only real cards that Tony Chu has that might actively fight Reanimator are 4 Swords to Plowshare's main and 1 Path to Exile in the board. And otherwise, he's going to fight over the mechanics of the game.
Right. Force of Will, Mental Misstep.
Exactly.
Is going to be his main plan. He can also misdirection, I guess.
If there's a target for him.
Yeah.
You have to have a target. But on the other side, Kyle Kloster has the 4th Mental Misstep in the board, has 2 more Brainstorms in the board. Now, that's so interesting to me. So he draws
Alright, so Putrid Imp is established for Kyle Kloster, so he can discard whatever fatties he wants now, right into his graveyard, at any time.
The sum total of his discard outlets are 3 Putrid Imp, 4 Careful Study, and then 4 and 2.
Tony Chu also has Spell Pierce in his sideboard too, which is pretty good in this matchup.
Yeah, fighting for the mechanics.
Yep. So, Kyle Kloster accidentally flips a Reanimate out of his hand there. Whoops.
Vendilion Click.
So V-Click comes down for Tony Chu.
Force a Will.
And Kyle's going to force it. And exiles Ginger Taxis. Alright. So Jin exiled, Force of Will with Vendilion Click. And now he passes back. So Kyle Kloster.
No, he's that was during
sorry.
his draw step.
That was during his draw step. I saw the hand motion by Tony Chu.
In for 1?
Yep, 1 point of damage.
Only 1 or 2 cards in the yard.
Yep. Entomb, Force of Will, I think, are the 2 cards. And
Sacrifice is probably getting an Underground Sea here.
okay. Unless he's worried about Wasteland.
Unless he's worried about Wasteland, that could be. So it's just Swamp.
Just a swamp. So no blue mana yet for Kyle. And let's see what he's gonna do here. Looks at his hand. We know he's got Peter Imp, so we can discard any fatties he has. We know he has a Reanimate because he accidentally flipped it up and showed it to Tony Chu. He's got a Force sitting back there too. Alright, Entomb. So Kyle entombs, and then I guess Reanimate is probably the next step, right? Ginger Taxis. And
Prepare to lose 10 life.
And if 10 life is a trade, Kyle is more than willing to make. Now, I don't think Tony Chu has a mental misstep. We'll see if he does.
Maybe he has a Swords.
Could have Swords.
Oh, look at Tony Chu's face, though. Oh, he didn't look happy.
No, and Tony Chu is always happy. When we saw him in Atlanta, he was just the happiest kid imaginable. So, let's see what happens here. Kyle's gonna go for it. Swamp, tap, Reanimate, Ginger Taxis.
Is that a white card there? Oh, that's a Swords. That's a Swords and it's there.
So Tony does have his Swords, but Kyle still gets to draw 7 cards. So Kyle loses 10 life, but then draws 7 cards, and the Swords will just reset his hand. Plus, Kyle has Force in his hand right now.
Such an insane card.
Ginger Taxis?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who don't know what Ginger Taxis does, at the end of your turn you draw 7 cards, and your opponent's hand size is reduced to 0. So they discard their hand at the end of their turn, you draw 7 cards at the end of your turn. So it's pretty ridiculous. Tony draws Sea's-Grim Lavamancer. Not the action he needs right now. He can get rid of the Ginger Taxis. He's going to need to. But I think Kyle has the Force for it, and that's going to be that. Tony Chu figuring out what he's going to do here.
I mean, normally you have to ante an extra card to get 7 new cards.
Huh. For 10 mana, a low price of 10 mana. Alright, Swords away the Ginger Taxis. Mental misstep from Kyle. And that should put the game out of reach for Tony Chu. I don't think... Alright.
Joink.
Discards his last 2 cards. Kyle draws.
Land for the turn.
Underground Sea, and Ginger Taxis is a 5/4, so it's pretty beefy.
Small. I mean, it doesn't get the job done by itself very quickly.
Sure. Well, you probably has no hand, you're drawing 7 cards a turn. It's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you just lock them out by overwhelming them.
Right, plus when you're drawing 7 cards, you're going to find another Reanimation card. As he discarded a Sphinx of the Steel Wind, he's got Peter Imp to put whatever he wants in his graveyard.
Careful study.
Alright, studies carefully. Discards.
This is a really cool deck. Like...
Reanimate, looks like? Or Putrid Imp.
Wait, what, he put it back on top of his library?
Not a brainstorm.
Not a brainstorm.
Discarding Putrid Imp.
There you go.
Alright, Putrid Imp to the graveyard.
Thank you. Discarding.
And one more card.
He's looking at a brainstorm in his hand, which is probably why he thought that.
Reanimate.
Goodbye, Reanimate.
Alright, so he's like, can't afford to lose any more life. So now Kyle is gonna have to draw an Animate Dead.
Declares attack.
Alright, so it serves with both creatures.
6/7.
In they come. Now, Kyle is at 6 life. That is not very much life.
That's true. But I think that should be enough. Kyle forgot to draw 7 cards. Yeah, he has to draw 7 cards.
Yeah, it's not a May. He can't
Rashad.
forget.
Rashad, if he didn't draw 7 cards, he has to draw 7.
So
Not a May. The judge is checking and
Okay.
showing.
Okay.
Definitely not a May.
Yep, not a May
Okay.
ability. You have to draw 7 cards, which is important because, for example, in Limited, you will pretty much deck out if you ever cast your attacks.
so the trigger, we're not going to back up. The trigger just goes in the stack right now.
The judge is
Got
taking
his
care
in
of
his
it.
hand.
Okay, cool.
Okay. And take a deep breath. Calm it
And
down.
Alright.
Be okay.
Oh,
looks like player's probably getting a warning.
Alright.
And alright, game resumes. So they're back to the discard step.
Actually,
So Kyle's going to have to discard some cards.
in his draw step now.
Okay.
Now, Grim Lavamancer
He, since it's a missed trigger, we don't back
was
up.
just summoned last turn, right? So the red mana is tapped.
Red mana is tapped, and you can't use the Lavamancer either.
That's a sporting thing to do, but it's
Let's
not
just make sure that we don't end up having the Lavamancer actually activate when it shouldn't.
One.
Well, Kyle's discarding cards now, so it's past the ability where Tony Chu could play abilities anyway.
Right.
So he discards Blazing Archon, alright. And choosing which card to keep, which to discard. Discards some lands, looks like. Maybe a blue card, a careful study under all that.
Proceed with your turn.
Passes to Tony Chu. Tony discards a Jace. So now he's got 2 cards in his graveyard. He can fire off 2 points of damage to Kyle Kloster.
Combat step.
But I don't, I mean,
Future dip to give it
alright. Kyle, something with Daze? What just happened with that Daze? Oh, he discarded Future to give it flying. Okay. And
Animate dead.
Animate Dead.
Iona maybe?
Targeting 6 of the Steel Wind,
Sphinx
just
is
in
pretty
case
good.
of emergencies. And Tony's going to deal 2 damage to Kyle Kloster.
Okay, still on the turn.
He's going to activate it
Triggers on the stack.
with the trigger on the stack, looks like. Okay, so he's going to remove 2 cards, bring Kyle to 4. Tony can bring him down to 2 with the Lavamancer.
Not sure if there's any way for him to get any more than
But,
that.
I mean, he only has 1 red source, so he can't even burn him
Yeah.
out. Yeah, that's going to be game. Kyle's got this one. Kyle Kloster is going to take game 1 here in the quarterfinals. Let's see what happens.
I do have to give you a warning for a missed trigger.
Alright, so Kyle is forced to draw his
I
cards.
should have given you the second one,
That's cool.
or the first one. Let it slide.
Okay.
So there seems a little bit of confusion about how Jinchaxis works.
Okay.
For traffic purposes.
Thank you.
So be extra careful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tony chooses draws.
I
And
can't remember.
He had
I
any
think that's
corrections.
game. I don't know what Tony could do here.
Yes, I accidentally
Looking at his
put
deck
the
list,
top
I don't
card
see
in my
any
hand.
way out of this.
Okay.
You now have to get the perfect sequence of cards.
That's all I can remember.
Yep, there's nothing that exists in his deck. I mean, the only way that he could possibly win is if Kyle draws a Black Lotus and then gets awarded a game loss.
Sure. Well, Kyle Kloster pretty easily takes game 1 against Tony Chu, sets up his combo. Those draws look really good, but there's some draws that don't look as good. If Kyle, for example, gets that spell Mental Misstep, it really hurts. In the meantime, Kyle gets up. I think he's going for a stretch. Interesting. But in the meantime, we're going to award, while Kyle is stretching, taking a break, you guys are going to be able to win some prizes in Kyle's stead. We're giving away 3 months of free premium.
Oh, that was awesome.
3 months of free premium. That is a third, fourth of the year.
I don't think it's a third of a
Awkward.
year. It's a third of a school year.
A fourth of the year. And
No, but in a
and
but not long.
all you have to do is answer a question. So on Twitter, put in hashtag SCG Premium and answer this following question. You don't have to put it at SCG Live. If you do, that's cool too. But you just have to answer the question. So here's the question. Today was the Star City Games Invitational, but before that in the morning, we had the Standard Open Series. Who won with what deck in the Standard Open Series today? Who won with what deck? What is it? Is it Cobblade, Adrian? Could it be
Cobblade. Cobblade's a good deck.
Cobblade's a pretty good deck, right? So why don't you tell us who won the finals of the Standard Open that happened here at the Invitational weekend this morning in Indianapolis? Tell us the answer, and you could win 3 months of free premium. And in the meantime, players sideboarding up. Looking at these guys' sideboards, Tony Chu's going to bring in Spell Pierce, Path to Exile. I think the Misdirection probably comes in. I think there are ways you can set it up to be okay.
Misdirection can be used to fight against Force of Will. You can use it as a counterspell.
Also, so if the way it works is if Kyle casts Reanimate on something,
Yeah.
then Tony can misdirect it, and between all the careful studying that goes on, and who knows what else, right? We have Putrid lying around. Perhaps he could Grimlavamancer his own Grimlavamancer.
I think that that's a possibility. I think far more likely is it's a 5th force of will in the fight.
I agree. I mean, I agree with that. You know, but there are other things you can do with it, which is kind of nice. Let's see what else here. Do you think that the blasts come in to deal with the blue cards from Kyle? Because Tony has 4 red blasts in his sideboard.
Let's see.
He has 2 Pyro Blasts, 2 red
okay,
blasts.
I was looking for the other one. The change of the pen ink, I was not even seeing, because his deck list is part one kind of ink, part another kind of ink. I think you bring in the blasts. I mean, he basically lost this game because, well, he was still in trouble in any case. When Mental Misstep stopped his Swords to Plowshares, if he'd had a blast, what he maybe would have been able to do is have the ability to activate the Grimlavamancer a couple more turns before he would have died.
Well, also, important question, what color is Taxis?
Blue.
Huh.
Interesting.
So he could get back to Taxis, take 10 life, you're like, alright, 1 mana. The thing about swords, right, if you use swords as Taxis, that's like, well, obviously that sucks for the Reanimator player, but they gain some life back to help offset the, you know, the 10 life they lost to Reanimator.
Now, normally against a deck like Tony Chu's, I don't think he would be too concerned about, or, you know, I don't think that he would be too excited about a few life, but when you're losing 10 to get off the
10
bat,
life, exactly.
I mean, you're going to start the game a lot of times at like 8 life, 9 life, and a boost of 5 can be huge.
Agreed. And so he's probably going to take out Magus of the Moon, doesn't really do very much.
Yeah, Magus seems like it's weak in this matchup.
So if he's bringing in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards, potentially, taking out 2 Magus of the Moon, what else do you cut here for if you're Tony Chu?
I have to wonder, I mean, is Jace even going to get into the game?
I think there's a point where you can run your opponent out of options and then just stick a Jace, and you can
that's
them.
fair.
But, I mean, I don't know what else to cut.
I mean,
Stoneforge
Mystic package?
I thought about that for a second, but I don't know how you're going to close in time if you're not batter sculling. Because that's your only way to kill them quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Grimlavamancer? You know? Grimlavamancer is a...
Lavamancer's not that exciting.
Not that great. I mean, it almost got the damage done for him here, but that was only because, only because his opponent lost 10 life, which will happen a lot of the times.
Yeah, I don't think Lavamancer's that exciting in this matchup. So you can cut maybe 4 Lavamancers, you can cut 2 Magus, that's 6 cards, but if he wants to bring in those last 2 Pyroblasts, he's going to need to cut 2 more cards. Oh well, we'll see what he did this game. Players draw their opening hands. I think, is that a misdirection in Tony Chu's opener?
I couldn't see it.
Well, we'll find out. Tony Chu thinking about it, and ships it back.
Well, we will never know.
So he shuffles them up.
Kyle Kloster also shuffling right now. When I briefly met Tony in Atlanta, one of the things that was really noteworthy about Tony is that Tony was just really excited to make that top 8, and here he is coming back again, making another one. And even like throughout the day, at different points, you know, you can notice Tony from across the room. He always looked like he was just doing really well, like really excited to be making this top 8. That last top 8 in Atlanta was his first major appearance in the Star City Games Open Series, and he could be somebody that's going to be a regular feature in our events out here if this keeps up.
Yeah, I think the only time I've ever seen Tony Chu sad was when that Taxis was
resolved. Oh my god, yeah.
But it's like stealing a little kid's candy. It's like, I'm going to draw 7 cards, you get rid of all your cards.
Yeah.
Like, what's meaner than that?
You know, the kid's got a balloon, you pop it, it's not very nice.
It is not very nice at all. So it looks like Tony Chu is still shuffling, going down to 6 cards. What kind of hand do you want to see if you're Tony Chu against this Reanimator deck?
You want to have a clock of some kind that can start doing some damage. So in this case, I guess that has to be a Stoneforge Mystic on turn 2, and then you want to see Mental Missteps galore. If you had your best hand, it would probably be 1 Stoneforge Mystic, 2 land, and I would say 4 Mental Missteps. That's the god hand.
You don't want to draw that hand here, because then you have to go down to 5 cards.
Oh, good point, good point. So 3 Mental Missteps, since he has already mulliganed.
All right. So Tony picks up his hand. You see Mental Misstep, Pyroblast. Okay, 2 blasts. It's got the Jace, Mystic.
I see. Yeah, I see the Mystic.
He needs one more land here. Otherwise, if he's one more land, this is a really good hand
There's
for
the
him.
Jace in there. Yep, as you said.
It's a Mystic Blast, Misstep, Jace land.
I see Force of Will, Reanimate. Some other cards in Kyle's hand.
All right.
Kyle
Well,
says go.
all right. So he cracks in. Oh, Tony draws the Tundra there.
Nice,
So he has
off
access
the
to
top.
2. That's what he's looking for. And now he can
Stoneforge Mystic can come down.
time to mysticize it up. Here comes the turn to Stoneforge, and then you will probably just find Batterskull.
Okay, that's fine. Resolve.
Huh. I might consider Sword of Feast and Famine, honestly.
Well, but then you give him free discards. Is that really what you want to do?
I mean, he's got a lot of ways to get discards going. I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you just go for the Batterskull. I mean, right now it looks like Kyle is planning on doing the free discard anyway off of the draw a card, don't do anything.
So, let's see. So he finds Batterskull. And, so yeah, it's kind of interesting. You could get Sword of Feast and Famine, or you could get Sword of Fire and Ice if you brought it in, but I like Batterskull. I think you just want to close quickly, set up a quick clock. Tony Shu knows with his hand. He can sit behind Misstep, Blast, and, you know, just deplete Kyle's options and try and close.
If he brought in Sword of Fire and Ice, that would be an excellent card to have fetched. Just drawing that extra card a turn, turn yourself into a super-powered Ophidian.
Yeah, it does force him to tap out over the next several turns, though, if he did that. You just have to tap 2 to put the sword into play next turn, and then 2 on the turn after that to ship it to the Mystic. Whereas by getting Batterskull, he can pay 2 to put down the skull, and then keep mana untapped on the next turn, which is really important.
Kyle looking for a decision on which card to discard. Looks like he goes with...
Sphinx of the Steel Wind.
Yeah.
Alright, so Tony draws. Alright, old draw discard plan. Alright, Brainstorm for Tony Shu. That was a really good draw.
There's another blast. There's a land.
Wasteland.
There's a swords.
Wow.
Look at all that. That is a lot of gas. For what this matchup is about, that is a lot of gas.
But he tapped his Tundra for that. Interesting. So we can't put Batterskull into play now.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I understand you want to keep Red Blast up, but now we can't Batterskull.
Oh, and he says go. Maybe he doesn't realize.
Uh-oh, Tony, what you doing?
Oh, there he sees it now.
Oh, he sees it.
He sees it now. He's pounding the table.
Now, I mean, I don't know if that's some bluff, but I don't think a bluff is worth not putting Batterskull into play, right? There's no way that that's correct.
I don't think that's a bluff.
Oh,
There's
no,
a Underground Sea fetch with the Flooded Strand,
Okay.
and we're gonna get the first attempt of many to get this Sphinx of the Steel Wind out, which does not have protection from white.
Alright.
Mental
So,
misstep.
Reanimate from Kyle Kloster, Mental Misstep from Tony Shu. That will drop Tony down to 17 life.
Force of Will.
Wow.
Force Will from Kyle, pitching a Careful Study.
Careful Study. I go to 18.
Tony's probably gonna Red Blast. Tony Red Blast the Force of Will.
Force of Will.
Kyle Force Wills again, pitching.
Moving.
Looks like Ginger Taxis.
I go to.
So double Force for Kyle, and he gets back to Sphinx.
Results.
That's the end of this counter war.
Almost no cards left.
And now Tony's just gonna be able to swords away that guy. The problem is he still doesn't have any pressure. So, all right, so he Power Blasts it, but he has protection from red, which is why he has to swords it.
Yep. A 6/6 though, so back up to 15 life for Kyle, and that also means another turn without Batterskull.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why that mana tap was so disastrous. Now, it did allow him to help in the counter war, so actually, his play turned out to be okay, because if he hadn't cast that Red Blast, it would mean Kyle was still have a Force of Will, which means he could have forced the swords.
Yep. Kyle says go. After Kyle says go, Tony then Wastelands. There's a Jace drawn by Tony Chu, and Kyle says go again.
Yep, now he just leaves the 2-mana up with Stoneforge, so he can put that Batterskull down.
Land for the turn. Go.
Alright, here comes Batterskull.
There's the Batterskull. Let's see what kind of token he uses here.
Huh.
Use it. Oh, there we go.
Shot
That's
token.
the power
Of course.
charm.
Classy.
Arms folded. Smash your face.
Alright, 5 damage. So this puts Kyle definitely on a clock. Also means his reanimates are going to be a big issue, because reanimate costs you a lot of life, and that's what you're into.
Pass the turn.
Kyle says go.
Alright, Kyle sitting at only 9 life. Misdirection is drawn by Tony, so he did board it in. 5 damage. Kyle is dead next turn on Tony's next attack.
25.
What Kyle has to draw here is a careful study, discard something useful, get a animate dead, and get it through Tony's cards.
Yep, and that does not work well. So Tony Chu wins that one. Is about to go into game number 3. He's going to draw this time, though. Yeah, those red blasts look pretty good there. Do you think that Snowboard's Mystic thing? Do you think that was a mistake?
I think that was a gaffe. Whether or not it ended up being a good way to go is another thing. He did not, I don't think, intend to do that. I don't think that was a bluff.
So like, if he pounded, so he passed the turn and instantly pounded his fist on the table. So how often do you just pass the turn and be like, oh man, just instantly you know that you missed it, right? Like, is it possible he was just trying to overact to bluff?
Keep going.
Overact to bluff Kyle?
You know, I don't know. I guess I can't say for certain that he wasn't bluffing, but I think it might have been just a gaffe. I mean, I don't know. You know?
Yeah, if we have a chance to talk to Tony Chu later on, I don't know if we will or not. We don't know if we're going to bring him in, but it would be great to hear from him on that topic. Because, I mean, for someone who's in the quarterfinals, I don't know if he'd make that play. We'll find. It's possible. Either way, whether bluff or not, it ended up working out for him. And Tony won that game. Now he's about to head into game number 3. And you still think Kyle has the advantage here after watching the first 2 games?
You know, the sideboard that Tony Chu has available to him, we don't know that he brought in Spell Pierce, but we do know that there's Misdirection, Pyroblasts, Path, Red Elemental Blast. He has access, based on that and his main deck, to a very hateful set of cards. Tony has great weapons here. He can't fight Reanimation directly, but in terms of you know, attacking the graveyard, but he can fight it just the mechanics of his deck. Counter spells, mental missteps, and then fight that war really well.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm sure he brought the Self Pierces in too. This is a really awesome match for it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I think that he should have, or, you know, the problem is making sure that you don't water yourself down too much.
In the meantime, it sounds like on the back tables, Thomas Graves wins 2-0. So he will advance to the semifinals, meaning that No Rug beats Stillblade.
Yeah.
Yep. So No Rug in the semis. That means it's going to go up against either Hive Mind or Blue White, either Drew Levin or Thomas Ma, both pretty accomplished players. So that should be a good match to watch.
It sounds as though Ryan Rowland playing the strange rug list versus Scott Muir's Merfolk is up a game, but that Merfolk is going to win the second game, so they're probably going to go to a game 3.
Well, that'd be a pretty interesting matchup too. But in the meantime, I'm excited about this game 3.
Yeah, me too.
This match was actually pretty interesting to watch. I mean, a lot of cool counter wars happening, a lot of interesting decisions being made. On just a couple lands, we saw Tony Chu was able to beat his Reanimator opponent. We saw Kyle draw a discard, a play a lot of players wouldn't make.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens here. Alright, and they present.
I mean, the thing about that plan that he made there, he had the land, and so what he was playing for was a turn 3 discard, or sorry, reanimate, because he mulliganed. So he gets the draw, goes up to 7, gets the draw, goes up to 8, discard, turn 3, reanimate. That's pretty slow reanimate to kind of do into a deck that has mental missteps.
So it's pretty slow, although on the other hand, if you look at Kyle's hand, it was really well poised for the situation. It was force.
Absolutely.
So he was able to set it up pretty well. Alright, so the players are drawing. It looks like Tony Chu's hand, a bunch of lands. I saw Brainstorm, Mental Misstep. I think you keep Battery Skull. I think you keep this one, maybe. You have Brainstorm and a Mental Misstep for some disruption. It's not perfect. It doesn't have a clock in it. It doesn't have all this disruption you want. Oh, he ships it. He feels like he can do better. Feels like he needs to mulligan more aggressively in this matchup.
That seems reasonable to me. I mean, if you don't have a very aggressive, disruptive set of cards, you're going to get run over by a Jin Gitaxis. All it takes is like one moment where the Jin lives till the end of the turn, and your opponent, even if you take care of it on your next turn, is just going to have so much fuel, you're probably going to fall apart.
Yep, totally. So Kyle quickly keeps his hand. So Kyle's keeping his hand. Tony Chu's taking a mulligan here. Who's going to be in the semifinals? Reanimator or Blue, Red, White Blade?
Right. The name given earlier that I thought was amusing was Snake Eyes, the G.I. Joe ninja. but red, white, blue blade, USA blade, America blade, or just Rhode Island blade.
Huh. Looks like so 22 mulligans into hand. It looks like it has Force, Misstep, maybe another counter spell, maybe a Brainstorm, bunch of blue cards basically.
Kyle Kloster with a black-blue fetch land in play.
Looks like Spell Snare. That's what the blue card was. Draws a Wasteland. Plays Scalding Tarn, passes.
Scalding Tarn, go. End of the turn. Kyle cracks it.
Alright, Pluto Delta gets cracked. Gonna go find an Underground Sea. Or just a basic. We see him perfectly willing to get basics before. And whatever it is, he's entombing. And Tony 2 is gonna misstep that. So Kyle Kloster gets Underground Sea and entombs. Tony 2 missteps. Kyle Kloster missteps right back. And then, wow. So that entomb is going to resolve, setting Kyle Kloster up. Puts Jin-Gitaxias right in the graveyard. Well, we're going to see a turn 2 reanimation here from Kyle.
Well, he's going to go for it, I think. The deck has 11 ways to attempt a turn 2 reanimation.
Well, let's see what he has. I mean, Tony had another misstep, he would have misstepped that. But he's sitting on a Force right now. So he can force a reanimation spell potentially from Kyle Kloster. Alright, he cracks a Polluted Delta.
In response, 22 cracks. It looks like there.
Okay.
Yep. 22, no stifles, so just cracking it right now to get a mana out.
Interesting. It's possible. Is he worried about his opponent responding to his fetch land at all? Could that be a thing?
That could be. I mean,
like he doesn't want to crack it to pay for days. I don't get it. No, I mean, there's probably a good reason for it. Might involve days. Being able to pay for days. I don't know.
Or interrupting Kyle's chain of thought for a moment.
Sure. Sure. I mean, that's the reason why you can always play that game too. The icing the kicker kind of game. All right. So Kyle Kloster exhumes. Tony 2 has the Spell Snare for it. Kyle Kloster forces.
And what's he gonna discard? He's got two choices there.
Gets rid of Careful Study, and Tony forces right back. Now Tony's sitting on double Wasteland, I think.
15, 16?
Was that a go?
Well, that was certainly a that doesn't resolve.
That pointing, Kyle Kloster. You.
Yeah, you, Tony. Why'd you have to go and do that to me? All right, so Wasteland's down one land, and Tony chooses another Wasteland. So next turn he can strip that other land away
Cards in?
if he wants to. Kyle, unless he draws Reanimate here, he's probably in a rough spot.
I see a point. You.
You. He draws Brainstorm. That's a good one. Yep,
Wastelands.
Kyle down. Kyle on no lands now.
Can't talk. He can't talk till he gets a permanent.
And he has Brainstorm.
I predict he'll point. There we go. Brainstorm end of turn for 22.
Do you like the end of turn Brainstorm there or main phase Brainstorm?
I don't like the end of turn Brainstorm in this situation, unless Tony Chu does not have any land left in his hand.
Yeah, he had another one.
If he had another land, I would main phase the Brainstorm.
I agree. He doesn't have any gas either. I just main phase it.
Now, I was always told when I was being shown Legacy, be greedy, main phase Brainstorm. You only really do the end of turn Brainstorms in either points of desperation, protection for your own cards, or if you have a fetch land in play already.
Right. Yeah. I think Anna Prozac was the one who called end of turn Brainstorm the worst play in Legacy. So I don't know if it's that bad, but you have to be careful about doing it.
There's a Polluted Delta.
So Polluted Delta for Kyle, so that's going to protect him a little bit. Tony Chu sitting on a Brainstorm.
See a Reanimate there for Kyle.
Okay. So Kyle cracks his fetch land.
What does he have in his yard again?
He entombed for Jin-Gitaxias.
So the Jin-Gitaxias in the yard.
Yeah. So if he has the reanimation spell, he could go for it.
I mean, I understand that Jin-Gitaxias is the core augur.
Correct.
But I don't know anything about what this person is like in real life. Do the books say anything about this?
Well, I don't think the Quest for Karn will help you that much, but if you read Doug Byer's column, basically the Phyrexians all have their own factions now, and he is the Praetor, which is basically the leader of the blue faction, which is, I can't remember the name of it. but it's all about knowledge, basically. It opposes Vorinclex's ideals.
Interesting. I was just curious. I figured you might know.
Yeah, I know about all this kind of stuff.
Reanimate is coming down, and we're going to
Reanimate.
see what happens. Tony Chu fetching a land here, getting a volcanic island.
And Reanimate for Kloster. We'll see what Tony does in response. Yeah, I'm into all the flavor stuff. I'm a creative writing guy, so.
I think we're going to see a brainstorm after that fetch.
Yep. And once again, if Tony, I think this is a point where that brainstorm really hurt him, because Tony could have dug one card deeper 2 turns ago if he had waited till his main phase. So
Pyro, Force of Will,
okay, and Spell Pierce.
And Spell Pierce. That was a pretty solid set of
I
cards.
think that's exactly what he needed, actually, because he needed a blue card and a
We're
Force.
going to start with the Spell Pierce, probably.
Now he has to put 2 back.
Oh wow, that's a good point.
I think you put back Force, actually, because you Spell Pierce the Reanimate, and then you Red Blasted the Counter Magic.
He hasn't done it. Yeah, he's still figuring his putbacks.
Because you can Spell Pierce that, and then you want to be able to, if Kyle has a Force as the last card in his hand, you want to be able to Rev it black. Although I guess Force gets way worse later on, but I don't know, I like the Spell Piercing in here. See what Tony Chu decides to do.
Absolutely.
Taking a quick check of the graveyard. A little note here. Donnie Noland wins the 2nd draft challenge.
Awesome, good
and
work.
The first one was won by Shaheen Sarani today.
Very cool. 2 great players winning 2 draft opens. Looks like Tony Chu chooses the Force that Reanimate. So he doesn't want to spell
Pierce because he doesn't want mental misstep to get him.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I want to call it Spell Snare for some reason. Wrong spell. But yeah, doesn't want to get misstepped. So he ends up
untaps, 1 card in hand.
Ends up bringing an extra card, but probably rightfully so. Kyle has Careful Study sitting there, as well as another land. So let's see what Kyle chooses to do here. I think you probably Careful Study.
What else does he have in his hand? Is it an extra land and something?
Looks like a land, maybe a Ginger Taxis. I'm not sure what his last card is.
If there's any big man in that hand, then he should definitely Careful Study just to find something.
Yeah, I mean, he has to find something or he's not going anywhere. Let's see what Kyle chooses to do. Kyle looking at his graveyard.
Here comes the prediction. Careful Study.
Alright.
As Gavin suggested. 2 cards. Another Careful Study.
Another Careful Study. And the card I couldn't quite make out. Swamp, I think. Pretty sure it's Swamp. So I was gonna discard 2 cards. You keep the Careful Study and another card. What do you just keep? Careful Study land? What do you keep?
Well, I can't quite make out what his hand is, so it really depends on that.
Alright, well, this
There's
card's... look at his deck list here.
Inkwell Leviathan? No, that's not that. Stormtide Leviathan?
Oh, wait, that's what it is. Stormtide Leviathan.
There we go.
Okay. I thought I was like, oh, does he have that in his deck?
And then while we were doing that, I think we just missed what the other card was that was discarded. He still has a Careful Study in hand. He says go, and then Tony Chu looks like draws and says go.
And Cal looks at Tony Chu's graveyard.
Discarded Swamp was the other card.
And Kyle looks at Tony Chu's graveyard, trying to figure out what Tony's cast this game, looking at what spells he could have left in his hand. Kyle hand is...
It's a Exhume there, pardon me.
So if Tony has an Exhume... if Kyle goes for it, Tony doesn't have the Spell Snare. If he brings back the Stormtide Leviathan or Ginger Taxis, though, Tony does have the Reb to deal with it.
Yes.
So that's actually okay for Tony. Let's see what...
But then with Exhume as well, I mean, Exhume doesn't hurt Kyle in any kind of resource way after the creature gets removed.
Right.
Or gets dealt with, I should say.
Activate?
You might be waiting to see until you can find something untargetable like Inkwell Leviathan. So Kyle plays a land, cracks it, gets another Underground Sea.
That's what you did.
And Tony Chu once again takes this opportunity to get a land.
I think it might just be what he's doing here is the Magic Online trick. Opponent fetch, you fetch, and maybe your opponent will misclick and not get their land.
Maybe. He's being pretty gentleman. Normally because you would want to save that fetch land, right? For a brainstorm.
Yes.
So, interesting play by Tony Chu. Just trying to ice the kicker.
Lost a few games. You're 14, I'm 13. I have both of us at 13 because I fetched.
See what happens. Yeah, so Kyle's going to go for Exhume here, getting back some blue creature, and Tony's going to be able to rub it. Alright, here we go. 2 mana, Exhume.
Exhume.
Tony checks his graveyard. Do I have a
Is
creature?
there a click in here? Or is there...
Nope.
Darn it. What does it do? Okay, yeah, both players. What do you got?
Sometimes Leviathan, okay. And nothing else. Alright, Ginger Taxes.
Yeah, Ginny.
So either one is blue.
Oh, look at that. That looks like a faked concern look.
Alright, so if you're Tony, you have to do that before he goes to his end step. Do it right now. Alright.
Looks like a land. And
Oh, he drew the miss. That's what he was waiting for. I didn't see that.
Oh, ouch.
Oh, he missteps the Reb. And then that's probably lights out for Tony Chu. Draw 7 cards.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All good girls go to heaven.
That's
Wow.
it. That is the backbreaker. I was wondering why he did it this turn and not last turn, and that's why he drew Mental Misstep.
Go ahead.
This card's Putrid Imp. Tony draws a Force of Will.
Not gonna help. Discards his
Says
hand.
go.
Doesn't even play his
Doesn't even
land.
lay it. He's like, oh well, I could have played that, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This game is done
Didn't
for me.
need this one. Oh man, yep. And in 3 turns, that attack is gonna take down Tony. Rough bout for Tony Chu. Kyle finding the mental misstep he needed. It looked so good for Tony Chu at 1.2. He was able to wasteland his opponent down to 0 lands, but without having a clock, once again, that clock is so important, and without having access to one, Kyle had all the time in the world to rebuild back up. So, plays Careful Study, discards Reanimate.
Drew Levin wins, defeating Hive Mind.
Yep, 2 great players. Drew Levin knows how to play his blue-white deck quite well. It's probably a close match. Drew Levin ended up with the victory. So Drew Levin will fight No Rug in the semifinals.
That's right.
And it looks likely that Reanimator will be fighting either Merfolk or the Rug deck in the semifinals. Not set in stone yet, but I don't know how Tony's getting himself out of the situation. It's really bad for Tony Chu right now. Ginger Taxius is going to town, doing what he does best, drawing cards and making the opponent discard them.
If it's end of your turn.
Kyle
Oh,
Intombs,
okay, fair enough. End of turn, end of turn. I'm sorry.
looking through his deck. Don't know what he's trying to go for. Puts Imperial Archangel into his graveyard, I guess, just to be on the safe side. And so he entombs end step. Tony discards a Batter Skull that he naturally drew.
Only 2 attacks left for Kyle Kloster to take care of this.
Yep, Tony Chu down to 3 life. There's Putrid Imp from Kyle. And looks like Kyle's going to Animate Dead. That Imperial Archangel just in case. It's got Shroud. And Tony Chu at 3 life. Kyle draws 7 cards.
Jeez, it's so absurd.
Yes. This is why Ginger Taxis is the master of the core. He knows how to deal with those other pesky predators.
I mean, if you were another Phyrexian, how would you even deal with that many cards? I mean, he's got so many plans. He's got plans within plans.
I mean, I guess you play Shield Dread. That's pretty good at being Ginger Taxis.